Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hammers and Dice podcast. I'm Randy. With me tonight are Reeve, Esteban, and John.
What's up, guys?
Hola, everyone.
It's been a while since our last full-on podcast. You know, life has gotten in the way, but you know, we're back. We're still heresying strong for 3.0. And there's been some pretty cool releases since our last legit podcast, other than my little how to build a list thing that I did last.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
But we're not recording all the time. Our chat is going off constantly and talking about
Yes.
what is happening. So we're very much like up to date with everything. But finding the time to carve out to do the videos has been challenging. But yes, the militia and the demons have been what's come out recently, and it's exciting to talk to you guys. I keep building militia lists, and I'm excited to hear what you guys think about it.
Yeah. So Reed actually has a Beastmen militia list that he's been very excitedly talking to us about in the chat.
Yeah, I think that militia is just by far and away the most customizable faction that GW's ever come out with. The problem is they're just never good. Like there's no competitive edge to them. It's like, if you maybe take like the Ogren detachment that lets you max out on a bunch of them, there's an idea that maybe 30 Ogrens could do some major damage, but it's either that or you have to have 300 troops on the field to just slow the enemy down. I've been looking at just to kind of not tease it too much. I have a Beastmen list that I've been looking at that takes the tainted implements, and it's for 1 point it gives rending 6-up, which, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but rending is now hitting on it's to hit, not to wound.
Yeah,
so it's
correct.
just literally every 6 to hit is an automatic wound right there.
Yeah.
And I gave it to everyone in my army, down to the commissars. It's a pretty good list, I think, and it would just run up the board, and yeah, I think it would do some. It'd be fun to at least play against.
yeah,
It's the hunting for sixes list, huh?
I guess, but I mean, it's how competitive you can really because there's an idea of I've run my former roommates militia plenty of times, and I haven't won a single game with them. I love doing it because I love that idea of a lot of the times we read the heresy, it's these poor militia and humans that are getting overrun. Lost in the Damned is one of the best books that they put out for the Siege of Terra, and it's literally basically from Katsuhiro's perspective, watching as the enemy gets closer, and then as the Death Guard and more Astartes get involved, the kind of more horrific it becomes.
Yeah, there's also that quick chapter with a Beastmen dude's perspective. That was super cool because you don't hear that too much in Heresy until then, but they're there,
It's so cool. I love the idea of running shaman, the Brayherd shaman kind of guys as the rogue psyker elements of it as well. I think there's just so much opportunity, and I've had some great STLs that have minotaurs that would be kind of my Ogren equivalents, and then centaurs that are my cavalry. So I think it'd be a pretty cool range.
I mean, I've said this before in this cast, but Heresy without Space Marines is a very different and very fun game. So I'm all for more non-Space Marine armies on the table.
yeah. I mean, it is a little bit thematic, unfortunately, that militia suck against everything. I mean, they should, but it also, and also we should clarify that competitive doesn't mean 40k competitive. It means just being able to win a game.
Yeah.
Just stand up. There's an argument
about,
you can make where last edition, if you gave 500 more points to the militia, it might become more balanced. But is that really a balanced portion then? Who knows for this edition?
Yeah. So I'm definitely we'll do a bit of a deeper dive into militia once people get some games in and we kind of see. And then also the Demons PDF came out as well, which is very interesting. It seems a little bit more. I mean, it seems like there's going to be some more additions to it because that seems to be the major issue right now is that it's not super fleshed out, but it feels more balanced. I think some of the units look a little bit better, but they knocked down the sovereigns and the big demon characters aren't as insanely good as they were last edition.
Yeah, I have this hypothetical list because I have 3 greater demons and it's a triple hierarch list. I'm you know what? Let's see if this works. And it's pretty nasty, but they have a 3-up save. So I mean, they have a 4-up and they have shrouding, but
and they're initiative 5 now, right? They're not initiative.
It's less.
They're initiative 8? Something ridiculous.
Yeah, so they're strong, but I don't think they're overtuned in the way they were last edition.
Yeah, because last edition you basically had to sucker them into a challenge.
Yeah.
Hope that the rest of your unit could take out enough wounds as they butchered whatever you put them in the challenge with.
I really enjoy the new direction. I haven't looked a ton at the Demon book yet, or the PDF, but I think the rule that they really nailed was actually their kind of way they align. I think that was a really inspired way to kind of take on this list. Where, like, last edition it was just like, okay, one turn you're like, or 1 or 2 turns you're really good, but by the end of the game you're supposed to be worse. I think they kind of switched that on its head of like, preserve yourself and then capture the ground and just kind of do a lot of damage in the initial stages.
Yeah, I really like that
guys
rule.
that.
I did, yeah. And the rule is super strong, but it's also not a guaranteed. Like your hierarch could get line 2, or you could get line 0, depending on the dice. So
yeah, or he could perils himself and lose.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's how they should feel. They should feel a little bit like you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. It is kind of picking up a hand grenade. Like, it's like you can never use magic. It's like the blade that cuts both ways in a lot of ways. So. Also,
big change where you could ally them in now, because last edition you couldn't. You had to summon them, get like Airbus or the one console, the trader console whose name eludes me. But now you can just ally them in. Yeah, that guy. But yeah, now you can just ally them in like a normal ally detachment. So less thematic, I guess. But you know what? It makes army building easier compared to last edition, even though army building is technically more complicated now. But just the fact that you could just slot them in without the need for any extra summoning abilities or whatever, or using the alternate PDF demon list from last edition. But yeah, that's a small change I really like.
Yeah. Beto is our resident demon player. Eventually, we'll get him back on the podcast.
I was about to say, Beto?
We'll force him back onto the podcast to talk.
We miss you, buddy. Please come back.
Please come back. White scars are good.
And then we also got an unexpected dump of releases that are coming up. I think everybody is very excited about all of these, like the the Mark II Assault Squad, the Saturn Journal, and also like all the combat forces.
Yeah, that's huge.
Combat forces are going to be great.
These honestly are better. If you're looking to get into this game, these are probably a better bang for your buck than the Saturn 9 box, honestly. The one caveat to that is the Leviathan, I think, is not in a great place right now. I mean, Dreadnoughts generally are not in a great place right now, but I personally think the Leviathan, it's like, if you want a shooty Dreadnought, you would go for a Saturn 9 Dreadnought, and if you want a close combat Dreadnought, you would go for Contemptor. I mean, I don't see the place of the Leviathan right now. It seems like it's kind of lost it a little bit.
Oh no, I absolutely agree, Rennie. In fact, I wish they had switched the Leviathan for maybe just a regular Contemptor, just to provide you the option of a ranged or close combat dread, and then maybe switch that Rhino to a Predator of some sort, because I think that would have been a more balanced and interesting box.
You know what should have been? There should have been some tarantulas. Instead of Leviathan, it would have been a perfect box.
Hey, you know what? At least Tac Squad Rhino is the most broken unit in the game right now, so at least
that is true. That is true.
So, if you're starting out the
hey,
game,
John, that's the way it's supposed to be, though.
You know what? Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, you know what? Like, what a full circle moment.
That's a good place to be at.
Is a Tac Squad. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we'll get into that. That's kind of
remember last edition, or like in the first edition, it was like really like, all right, I paid my tax of like my command squad and my 2 compulsory, and then now with my right of war unlocked here, let's go buck wild, which is like obviously a lot of what we had in 2.0 as well. But like there, they felt like a tax, because in those games in 1.0, it felt like you were just like trying to slog it out and kill each other instead of actually trying to score objectives.
I mean, that's something that I think is going to be part of the meat of the episode. So let's not get too much into that yet.
Yeah,
totally. I do want to say, if you're interested in starting out Heresy, these are a cheap way, relatively speaking, to get into it, with some overall very good options, not just for the Space Marines, for the Solar Ox and the mech.
The Solar Ox one is insanely good, by the way, having trying to plan its army. So would recommend that.
Yeah, so I think every single one of these releases that's coming out is a great release. The Fellblade, and we'll talk about a bit more tanks. It's interesting to see. We'll kind of get into what everyone's thoughts on, because I do think the plastic Fellblade, we're going to probably see a lot of them.
Cool.
We'll talk.
I think I've seen very few of them, truthfully, in like kind of the meta over the years.
Yeah.
Its normal weapon, I think, has been AP3 for most of its life. I don't know where it's at currently, but it's like I think with its high strength weaponry now, it has a solid place.
It's also a status machine. I mean, we can talk about it later, but yeah, like it
Yeah.
throws out multiple statuses, which is really good. But it's plastic. I think that's the biggest thing. Being a plastic kit makes it way more accessible than a resin monstrosity.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm pumped for when they put out the glaive, though.
Yeah.
I just gotta say, like, I'm not buying the fell blade. Give me the glaive, GW.
I had to paint mine.
I mean, that's got to be relatively soon because it's basically just a gun swap, right? It's the same.
It's like a torso
little
swap
different.
potentially because it doesn't have the demolisher cannon.
Mhm.
So it has
Yeah,
the-
but I mean, that's
But if they do that,
yeah, like
Yeah,
it's the same thing as the
small
Spartan
thing.
and the
Yeah.
Cerberus and the
I mean,
Titan,
I'm just thinking
right?
about
One
yeah
screw.
when they
but they're
did
gonna do the Falchion as well.
the 10
sure.
different tanks with the Rhino chassis 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Where it's like
That was 3 years ago.
the main sprues were the same, and then they
Yep.
swapped out a few different
Actually,
ones for the
I wonder if you could just grab the Kratos full cut gun and kind of slap it on there a little bit with some plastic card.
It's way too small.
You think so?
I have a
Yeah,
glaive.
definitely.
I have a glaive. It's that Volkite cannon is ginormous.
Okay, what if you had two Kratoses and you slapped those two into a longer barrel? You
I'd
think
like
that could maybe?
Maybe it's not as thick, but
I'm just thinking of ways to save money and not have to buy another kit just to have a turret.
I
Oh,
think
man.
because it's
Oh,
not a
wait,
turret
it's
swap,
okay.
right? There's also the front part is different, so there's no demolisher cannon. I mean, if you have a way to like cover that up, I'm sure there's a way to magnetize it if you have both kit, all the bits. But
I was gonna
Yeah,
say, I know
yeah,
I'm
it comes out.
picking up at least two of them because I want one for my Dark Angels, and then I'm planning a Sons of Horus army. And I've kind of think I'm gonna run a Fellblade for it.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't even know if I would ever really use it. I just think it's a beautiful model and it's actually going to be somewhat affordable, and it just feels like a fun painting opportunity.
I think
affordable.
I think it's good. I don't think it's
Relatively.
wrong. I think
Relatively.
it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Mark II Assault Squad, I'm very, very excited for this.
Definitely. The
Classic
chain axes look great.
axes. Oof.
Yeah. That is hype.
Oh,
I don't know.
looks
I
good.
want them. I don't know what. Maybe I get another 20-man Malefic squad for my list. Who knows? Or I play World Eaters. I don't know. But that's a
I
beautiful.
might get someone making
I-
this night, put them with my Night Lords and do some Raptors with them.
Oh yeah.
The Mark II looking ones.
Yeah. I mean, these would be great for the Sons of Horus Reavers as well.
Mm,
Mhm, mhm.
They are. I'm going to lose a lot of money to this in the next week when this comes out.
Oh, it's convenient that GW's price rise is coming up at the same time.
I'm resisting and waiting for Breachers because they should be soon TM.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
I'm excited for the Breachers too, but I got to get the Mark because I'm gonna do like a Veteran Assault Squad with the Mark IIs. I
Oh
think.
yeah, that's fits so well.
Real quick before we move on to kind of what the media episode is, Reed has as the event organizer for Las Vegas Open, which is coming up next month. He's got some information for people. So if you're going to Las Vegas Open, or if you're just kind of interested in how events kind of get run at all, you can listen to this part. I think I'll do some chapters. So if you're not really interested in this part, you can kind of skip ahead. But if you are, Reed, why don't you kind of dive into some LVO goodness for us?
Great. Yeah. Thank you guys for letting me taking the time to do this really quick. So just general information. So Las Vegas Open is coming up. It's hosted by Frontline Gaming. It's October 3rd through the 5th are the primary days. I think a lot of people are showing up on the 2nd. That's when I'm showing up to start setting up. We're doing I'm running the Horus Heresy narrative event there, and I have a really cool team of people with me, and I want to just say thank you to them as well up front. They've been helping me as far as like the craziness of like, we just had an edition change, and there's been like kind of a lot of questions up in the air of like how to do things with so much having changed and people are so fresh to it. But just to kind of take a quick moment and kind of give a rundown, there's a few just generals I want to say, and then we'll get into a really, kind of more specific thing. So there's 2 games a day, Friday and Saturday. That's the 2 games. So by the end of it, you'll have 4 full kind of start to finish missions. Game 4 is going to be suggested to be a doubles match. We did that last year. It was a fun thing to kind of cap out the main event. It's once again only suggested, so you don't have to if you don't feel so inclined. We're setting the campaign this year at Beta Garden. If you guys know me at all, you know I'm a huge Beta Garmin fan. So this year specifically, we're going to Beta Garmin 3. We at the end of in January, we wrapped up the events at the Vegasian system. We had been to a planet called Gamblin, and had now received the call that the Ruin Storm is over and that all of our forces are being called to Terra. So we're kind of hitting at this intersection of when the Primarchs, Jagatai Khan and Sanguinius, have entered the system, and they're beginning their kind of speed run to kind of slap the traders around and gain some control over the situation. With that in mind, this year we're actually including some of the named characters. That's going to be really exciting. We haven't done that traditionally. We tried to section off our part of the of storytelling away from the major larger narrative, where obviously bringing in a named character has been kind of, it can remove you from the setting quickly if it's the wrong place at the wrong time. With all that in mind, talking about how the event will run overall, starting day one, game one, not to give too much of it away, but I will. The first mission that we're going to play is mission 2 in the book. It's going to be basically straight from the book, so that when you come there, just know how to at least play that one mission and get through it, because as we go, we're going to add more rules on as people kind of get into the flow of 3rd edition, because we're going to have a lot of people that come there. I know some people that have played 20 plus games by the time they come there. I may even have 10 games by the time I come there. And then I know some people are going to come up that have, 1 to 2. And we're going to be a whole gambit of different levels. So it's going to be a little bit of patience this year. And also to know that we have a lot of things that we got to try now that it's 3.0. Things that are returning, Oath of Moment. And this is going to be kind of a thing that we did last year. This is to help you, where sometimes you just have a bad matchup, but there are things that you can do in these kind of oaths of moment that you take before the game. It'll be a list of 6 of them. You can only use each oath of moment once per event. So once you've done it, you can't use it again. But it's to give you kind of a secondary objective that can still help you with the overall campaign goals if you choose to pursue this mission instead of the general overall mission if you are ill-suited to it. And then the final thing really to kind of jump into are the strategic assets. These are going to be a fun thing that if you looked at the ISFON 5 journal, the first one that came out for 3.0, you can see that in the back there are these strategic assets that the Games Workshop talks about. We're going to be using 5 of them directly from the ISFON 5 journal. So I encourage you to have that with you if you do not have just those pages. The first 5 that we're going to be including straight from them are called the Disruptor Emitter, Minefield, Melta Minefields, Grav Snares, Frag Minefields, and then Forward Ammunition Drops. From there, I've taken the liberty of making a few different ones just to kind of spice up the aspect of how we're going to be playing. Another one's going to be called Offerings to the Dark Gods. This is in the idea that you've killed somebody's unit in close combat, and now you're going to place down a marker that gives a Fear 1 bubble to all enemy units within 12 inches. We're not going to be using it in the first game. We're only going to start using strategic objectives on Saturday. That's to help with the increasing difficulty of it and to just try it out for a few games. I know that some people are going to see this as maybe, a little bit too much bookkeeping. That might be too, but also I'm just trying a bunch of different things right now. But you're going to have a strategic assets that then you can spend to get these assets from me, the DM, the event organizer. But so as an example, like I have 12 of these skull piles that obviously I'm still working on these. I'm still doing more to get them done. But so the traders will be able to come over. This is a trader only strategic asset. They pay about 3 points, I think, if I'm correct on it, 2 points. And then from there, they'd have this objective that then they can deploy in the game at their own discretion. From there, artillery barrages, defense positions. I have a few tarantulas myself that I'm going to be bringing, and this is going to be something that you can spend points on to get a tarantula from me before the game. We have forward recon. This can give you a +1 to determining who goes first. And then smoke grenades. As far as the kind of, this would be able to give shrouding basically to an infantry unit if you so choose. Really from there, I can talk about it more going forward on the Discord, but so please follow us there at the Horus Heresy Las Vegas Open. I'll put a link in the description down below. But thank you guys for your time. I'm happy to answer more questions and kind of come back and do a solid one-on-one video with kind of the community if we want to talk more about what is to come. So let us know in the comments below. Thank you.
All right, excellent speech, Reed. Round of applause, everyone.
Yeah, I'm bummed I'm not going to be able to make it this year. I keep every year I'm like, I'm gonna go this year. I'm gonna go this year.
Hammers and Dice is really not repping this year. I say that jokingly. I know Esteban, you were there in January.
Yeah, I was there the last 2 years, and unfortunately this year with the event change to October, it's just a little too soon for me to get some additional time off, plus a lot of family events for me happening in October, so trying to juggle all that and trying to find time just didn't work out this year. Maybe next year, though.
Yeah, next year I say it, just like I said last year.
Right.
Well, we had 2 this year, and it is definitely a bit of monkey wrench with that, and in the way of like also getting a new edition, which like I'm naturally kind of a stressed out person in that kind of way of like, I want to give you guys something great when you come to LVO. But with knowing so little about this edition, it's been kind of a question of how much I can change and how much I can kind of shake it up to really make it interesting and worth your time. But I can't wait to kind of spend it with everyone.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of leads us into the meat of this episode, which is really kind of about the current meta of the game. Like if you're going to LVO, if you're going to another event, or even in your local gaming group, what are the types of things that you are likely going to see your opponents fielding, or that you are probably going to want to field yourself, and counters to those things?
And something that we want to clear up when we say meta, we don't, again, like what Randy said earlier, we're not talking about competitive 40k, competitive H Sigma, like how do you win the fastest, right? In the, with the most OP units. It's more like, well, if you care about winning, which I think most people do, like, yeah, this is a narrative game with cool paint models, but we also want to play a game and not get tabled in 2 turns, right? So if you wanna win or have a fun game, what should you expect to see? What should you bring to kind of fight what you're gonna see? And what are some things you need to be aware of, like rules wise, mission wise? So again, you just don't, you don't like go through your turn and suddenly you're down like 30 points, half your army's dead, or you didn't bring enough anti-tank and you just can't hurt the enemy. So it's more like that, not like how do we win really quickly kind of conversation.
Yeah. Yep, good clarification there, John. Yeah, it's not about winning hard, it's about having fun while winning. Maybe.
Well, having a close game. I mean,
yeah, having exactly close game.
Like for me, the best games aren't the ones where I'm up 30 points in turn 2. It's the ones where it's like you don't know who's going to win turn to turn, and then the game comes down to a couple of dice rolls at the end. For me, those are the best games.
Like if you draw, that's like one
this
of the best.
edition though, when you have that rule that kicks in when you're down by half. Like I had one of my cool and most dynamic games where I was down by half. Going into my last turn, and I was able to win by the end of it. There are some really cool moments, though. I just want to, kind of point that out. So
that being said, I think before we even had any games, we kind of talked a little bit about this, about how important line is going to be, and tactical squads are king this edition. I think if you're playing a 3K game, most events are still 3K for this edition. I think, having at least 3 tactical squads in your list is almost going to be a prerequisite, unless someone's running a really funky list.
I would like to say that you can also say despoilers for some armies, because they also have line too. Even they're not nearly as effective, but tacticals.
I was going to mention that, like the spoilers. So the reason why tax and the spoilers are really good is that they have line 2. So to clarify, when they hold objectives, they score 2 more points in addition to the objective, and the spoilers have that. And yeah, the spoilers aren't as effective at other things compared to tax squads, mainly because of how their war gear works and how bolters work. But even if the spoilers just sit there and kind of brawl and maybe fight in the middle, they still have line 2, so they can still do stuff. They still can still score those points, right? So, but mainly you're gonna I think mostly see tactical squads anyway, because they're what you get in every box set, and you don't the spoilers you can only really get by getting the melee upgrade sprue or like raiding your bits box. Mostly people will have tactical squads.
Yeah. I mean, you have a squad's out in an objective. You don't want to be moving it, which tactical squads get an extra shot when they don't move. So they're just sitting there, 10-man squads pumping out 30 shots a turn, whereas just spoilers, you have your 10 bolt pistol shots. And most things that are going to charge you, you probably aren't going to survive very well. So you know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, attacks are way better than the spoilers for sure. But if you really like the melee, if you really want, you know, a melee squad, like your World Eaters player or a Blood Angels player or something, then I think you could still kite by with the line 2 from the spoilers.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I
attack
think
squads will do more work for sure.
I think the spoilers have a place to try to steal objectives from tactical squads. Vanguard units, the tactical squads are probably going to move up the objective to deny those Vanguard points. But if they move off the objective for the spoilers are just going to score the full points. So you're putting your opponent in a little bit more of a, they have to make a harder decision about whether they want to try to stay on the objective and survive or just give it up. So there is a place for them, but I do think that tacticals are overall a stronger choice.
Yep.
But like we were saying before with, you know, the new box, tactical squads and rhinos, I mean, they have an incredible range right now. You know, from in the first turn, tactical squad, because rhinos are what, 12-inch movement right now, right?
I believe so.
So you can, in this edition, if you don't already know, the tank can move its full movement, and then the squad can move its full movement out of the tank. So it's a 19-inch move. You know, turn 1, if you have your 12-inch deployment, you're right on the edge of that. You know, you can get almost anywhere on the field in turn 1 and jump on an objective and score right away.
Yeah.
So,
In the mission with the middle objective, that's a guaranteed turn 1 score unless they have infiltrators or something. So it's really, really important.
So that's something that you should expect to see. And you're going to want to have things to counter that. You're going to want to, you know, have fast moving units of your own. You're going to want to have some ranged firepower to, if not wipe out the units, then status them and try to stop them from being able to score. For instance, another really strong unit that I think people are going to see a lot is Seeker Squads. Because they have that ability, 30-inch range, their firepower is really strong, and also they have the different ammunition.
Yep.
So you can status if you don't think you're going to be able to wipe out the squad. You know, you can take out Nuncio Voxes, you can take out Sergeants.
So I would like to say, I would like to make one special mention, and that is part of it going into it. The Havoc launcher got a really big glow up because now I believe it has, was it pinning or was it suppressive?
It's
stun.
Yeah,
So the long range on that Havoc launcher and the fact that almost any vehicle from your Rhinos all the way up to your Super Heavies can take one is going to be a big thing, since those things can reach out far and help just toss a status on as a blast marker. So look for weapons and tools that have a range and a status effect that are going to be able to kind of help you suppress those tactical squads.
In terms of statuses, a good counter to statuses, so this is one of my things I tell people is, if your squad can take a Nuncio Vox, you should take a Nuncio Vox.
Yes.
So what a Nuncio Vox does is it lets you test. So normally, if your squad is a status, you can only test to remove it at the end of your turn. So you'll usually spend the whole turn with the status and the disadvantage it gives. At the end of your turn, you could get it off. Well, a Nuncio Vox, what it does is it lets you test for the status at the start of your turn if you have a command unit. And you can only test up to how many command units you have. So if you have 3 command units, you could use 3 Nuncio Voxes from 3 different squads. But yeah, it lets you remove that status before you get to do your turn, which I think is super important, because getting pinned or suppressed, especially before you could try to get it off at the end of the turn, it sucks. That squad is, you know, I was playing a game with my buddy Donnie, and I got 2 squads pinned turn 1, and it's like, well, this sucks. Like, I can't move, you know? One of them was an assault squad. So yeah, like really, it's a 10-point upgrade. It's a bit in all the tax squad boxes, and it's kind of cool having that radio guy, right? And yeah, I really recommend that upgrade for all your squads that could take it. You will thank me later. Thank the cast later.
And if you don't have any bits or you need to convert some, guitar wire and a little drilling vise into the back of a backpack makes a great antenna.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they're literally in every single tactical marine box. It's all of the upgrade sprues.
Yeah.
That they break so easily.
Well, back in my day, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, I know. I have plenty from obviously second edition coming around that I can put them on my own Mark IVs and Mark IIIs.
I mean, it used to be kind of ubiquitous for tactical squads to have Vexillas on them. That was kind of the second edition go-to. But now, snap off those Vexillas, put on Nuncio. They're so much better in this edition.
Yeah. and
Yeah.
thematic actually. Like your radio and your dudes are getting told to stop being pinned and run over there to the enemy. But yeah, super recommend that upgrade.
Right. So point is expect tacticals, protect your tacticals, keep your tacticals from being suppressed or status. Basically, is what we're trying to tell everyone.
Yeah.
Your tacticals are your key. Your enemy's tacticals are your target.
Yeah. And so, precision is a very good way to both. It's something to be aware of your opponent having, and also it's a good thing for yourself to be able to precision out those nuncios. Another thing to remember for this edition as well is you can't just hide your nuncio behind cover anymore, because if your opponent can shoot one person in their squad, they can shoot your whole squad.
Yep.
So that's something to be on the lookout. You can't just, I think it's very popular last edition for someone to have a master signals and just hide them in the back of a building the entire game attached to a heavy support squad. It's like, haha, you can't snipe me. That is no longer the case. If any member of your squad is visible, then any member of your squad can be shot and killed. So it's good. It's good and bad depending on which side is shooting.
Speaking of a master signal, that's a console I've grown very fond of past few games.
Yeah, they continue to be great this edition.
Yes, they do different things, but they're still really good. So master signal, what he does is, well, first of all, if you're deep striking, you need this guy. Like, just know if you're deep striking one unit that's not an assault squad, like a Terminator squad or something, a Saturday squad, like get a master signal, because what he does for reserves is reserves normally come up on a 3 on turn 2. He adds +1 to that, so they come on a 2. And you might say, oh, it's only +1. If your unit doesn't come in turn 2, it's kind of useless, because there's 2 more turns left, like after turn 2, right? For the most part, and they can't charge when they come in. So if it's a melee unit, it's not charging till turn 4, if assuming you pass turn 3 roll, right? But making that 3 up into a 2 up, if you're deep striking, I've seen so many people roll a 2 when they deep strike. It's just get the master signal if you're deep striking. And he's still really good because the second ability is he lets you give a unit line or vanguard, or if a unit has vanguard, you could switch that to line, which could be really important in the game, because not only does line let you score additional points, it also helps you capture objectives, because I think line units or models with line count as 2 models when it comes to determining who controls an objective. So if you have a scrum in the middle and there's, you have your Terminators and their Terminators, well, they have vanguard for the most probably, or maybe they don't have vanguard. But if you give your dudes line, you'll probably grab that objective and score you some neat points. So
I was going to say, John, you've actually touched on something that I think we do need to discuss, which is getting your units up fast and how important transports are in this game, and how you should really be not just bringing them, but putting them on your priority list, especially rhinos. The turns are now 4 rather than 5 or 6 as we're used to. So you have 4 turns to get up the board, and you do that very fast. So things like jetpacks, things like jet bikes, as bad as they are still, unfortunately, sorry, White Scars players. Mobility is king as always, and especially with 4 turns, a rhino, a land raider, or some kind of transport is going to be very important. So making sure you bring transports to get your line or get your vanguard where they need to be, and doing it quickly. This is not a stay back edition for gun lines. This is really a get up and get in your opponent's face, especially. And again, going back to tacticals and rhinos, the tactical and rhino is a very scary thing. It should be your priority to either stun, suppress, or destroy rhinos on your turn 1, because if you can slow down their tactical squads, you can keep them off the midfield objectives. I think that's one thing you want to really think about. And a great tool for that is anything with strength 7 and damage 2. All those autocannons.
Yeah,
autocannons have had a big blow up this edition, but John, you're just to go back to what you're saying, like the idea that where a 4-turn game has fundamentally changed things, where now you guys, like, I've been looking at different lists as far as, hey, maybe I have these 2 or 3 things in deep strike, but now I've had to kind of rethink my calculus on it, where that's not as viable of an option anymore with only one thing coming in from deep strike now. It's really really changed a lot, and obviously taking the master signal to make sure that you get that one unit that you have a deep strike on, and rock it around quickly. is key.
Yeah. Deep Strike's super good at this edition too. I've been using it a lot, and because you don't scatter anymore, you just plop. I mean, yeah, you can't charge, but you're not scattering. Like, oh look, an objective. Here's my Crimson Paladins who have line, and they're on the objective now. Like, okay, it could be really good. So yeah, it's not as crazy as before where you could deep strike your whole army, but yeah, deep striking a key unit turn 2 or 3 can be a huge difference.
Or
And
the
even
Master of
turn,
Descent,
yeah, I was gonna say that's one of my
turn 1
favorite
deep
units
strike
now.
onto a midfield objective can be really powerful.
I've been enjoying taking my my Saturnine Praetor and a 6-man Saturnine squad with him and deep striking it onto the middle objective and having a really good time with that.
It's like,
Yeah, that's
try to
cool
take me
thing.
off this. I dare you.
Yeah.
Yeah, come at me.
Yeah, and if your Master Signal gives it line, now it's like scoring extra points and holding that objective for you. It's a beefy unit, right?
And also, because someone touched on this a little bit, tanks, transports obviously are great, but tanks in general have had a major blow up, or glow up, I should say, not blow up.
They don't blow up anymore.
They don't blow up as much as they used to. AV-14 has become much stronger. It's a lot harder to take tanks out. They have more hull points. If you have some Proteus Land Raiders, they can actually survive the whole game now.
Right.
I think you're going to see a lot of lists with 2 or 3 Land Raiders in them because of how survivable they are and because of how important it is to move units up fast. And they can weirdly now, and I don't know I feel like this is probably going to FAQ'd. Weirdly, you can actually put jump squads in Land Raiders because there's no rule that says you can't. So be on the lookout for someone doing something like that.
I've been thinking about destroyers in a Spartan. Honestly, it's jump pack destroyers, move 10 inches, jump out 12, bulk height twice in a turn. Ooh.
Fun fact: you could put Demon Angron in a Land Raider. Just letting everyone know that's a thing. If you ever, for any APOC games out there, just be aware you can slingshot in a Land Raider.
So yeah,
but yeah, that could be a thing, right? Moving up the Land Raider and then charging out with your assault squad. That could be a thing, or your veteran assault squad.
Expect to see a lot more tanks.
Yep.
And I think it's interesting because I do think the way they've balanced tanks out, which I actually really like, is they've made them a lot harder to kill, but a lot of their weapons, they've reduced the firepower.
Yep.
They've made it so if they move, they're a little bit less effective. So they're not as strong with their firepower as they were last edition. So it's kind of that give and take that they've done, which is nice to keep them from being super overpowered. So I think it's important. You're going to want to bring some anti-tank because if you don't have some, then your opponent is going to be able to do whatever they want. But I do think it's not something that you want to focus on overly much necessarily, because most tanks are probably not going to kill more than their points value in a game. I think most of them don't have the firepower to do a crazy amount of damage. So, you want to prioritize those shots probably towards the line units more than the tanks. I think tanks are like a juicy target, but they're maybe a little bit of a decoy.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you should have some anti-tank, but I don't think you need 4 laser vindicators, right? Maybe 2 is good, or I run 4 laser rapiers. That's been doing really well. Single last cannon squad, while it is slightly worse than before, it's still really solid at what it wants to do. But yeah, honestly, there might be more reason to take just more heavy weaponry or status throwing weaponry.
We had a game where Randy ran his Warhound Titan. I wanted to try out a game against one of those. Titan rules are really awesome this edition. But I ran basically my entire Salamander armor detachment, 2 Sicarans, Sicaran Venator, Falchion, 4 or 5 Predators, a bunch of different things. So it's a really hardcore list as far as a lot of tanks and 3 or 4 rhinos full of tactical brains as well. It was an interesting trying to play. It was obviously far more competitive, but in one of my games I ran into a problem of I ran my Spartans, my fire drakes up to try to bless my buddy's Spartan, and they kind of stood there because all of them had thunder hammers and were only strength 7 and can't hit anything. There is this kind of idea that vehicles are harder to kill, and that's just I think generally true. I think that you're gonna have to have more dedicated weaponry to taking it out. And especially those kind of really hard hitting things. We're the really interesting crossroads right now, where I think both lists are very viable.
Right, right. And I think that going to what I was going to say is making sure you have a source of strength 9, preferably strength 10 or higher, honestly. And something that you can protect it with is very important. Like John said, he's bringing 4 rapiers. 4 rapiers is great because that's 8 ablative wounds on your Marines to keep those rapiers going. Putting it on a tank, like say a Kratos with 4 last cannons and the melted blast gun, that's going to be a great anti-tank platform there. Not to encourage people to all be bringing in tons and tons of Kratoses, but just having some source of strength 9, 10 to help deal with that AV14 that you're going to inevitably run into. So if you currently are only running all autocannons, you're full of strength 7, strength 8 anti-tank weapons, you're going to have a bad time. Even a 10-man melt-a-gun squad is going to struggle to get multiple successful hits, even in melta range, even with Armor Bane, against a Raider.
Yeah. An important thing too here, look at the damage on a weapon too, not just the strength, because the reason las cannons have been dumbed down so much is their damage 2 if you stay still. The penetrating hit damage table is gone, right? You can't just get a lucky 6 and blow a tank up. If you've got a Land Raider and you moved, you have your 6 las cannon shots. You need 5s and 6s to pen it, but each one of those shots is only doing 1 damage. So most tanks, even a Rhino, is most likely going to survive that barrage. You know, the las cannons are not nearly as so. If you're in that 2.0 mindset of like, I've got some las cannons here, some las cannons here, that's good. You know, like it's not good anymore. You know, that's
you need dedicated. Yeah, something on that note is the regular Vindicator is actually a really good anti-tank thing. Because if you're in range, right? And you stand still, the big gun, it's ordnance D, which means it deals 6 double the damage, 6 damage on the pen, and it's strength 12. So you're penning Land Raiders on a 3, right? And it's a blast weapon. So even if you miss, unless you really mess up the scatter roll, you're probably still going to hit it. So
yeah,
stuff like that where, you know, you think, and another thing to remember too, especially if you're coming from 2.0, is AP2 doesn't matter for tanks. Like it could be AP6 because AP doesn't interact with vehicles anymore. As long as it has a high strength and good damage, like the Vindicator cannon, the Demolisher cannon, it's strength 12, AP3. Who cares if it's AP3? You could still pen a Land Raider if you roll a 3, and if you're standing still, it's dead, right? So,
and honestly, statusing tanks can be more effective than just trying to destroy them, because if you have like a shock weapon, for instance, or if you have a weapon that doesn't have Armor Bane that glances a tank, it's really hard for most tanks to get rid of their statuses now. They're relying on a roll of a 6 at the end of their turn to remove that status, which means they're spending that whole turn statused, you know? So if you have a Kratos that you've paid, 400 something points for, and it's, you know, shock pinned, it's really, really hard to remove that status now.
And on that note, I've said it before, but Forge Lords, guys, like if you don't have one Kratos and just that's it, maybe not worth it, or a couple Rhinos, maybe not worth it. But if you're running like 2 Sicarans, 2 Land Raiders, and a Kratos or something, I think you should invest in a Forge Lord, because
I think if you're running at least 3 tanks that aren't Rhinos, it's definitely worth it.
Because Forge Lord has Battlesmith, which lets you remove statuses on his, I think during his when you move him and stuff. So
he has Battlesmith 2, and he also has, is it a Machinator, right?
Yeah, let's do it twice.
To do it twice.
Yep. So it's 2 vehicles he could repair quite easily.
And yeah, so I think the problem with Tech Marines, I mean, Tech Marines are good, but the problem with Tech Marines is they take up a separate auxiliary detachment, and the detachment is just Tech Marines. So you're wasting a slot, and they're also not as good as the Forge Lord is. I think do they still have Battlesmith 2, or is it?
I think it's 2, yeah. But yeah, the fact that they take up detachments and slots is, you know, not makes them as good as Forge Lord, because Forge Lords are command. So worst case, it gives you a detachment slot and a leadership buff to a squad, and then lets you repair things. So
yeah, and you could also, if you wanted to, you could like slap a jump pack on your Forge Lord and really just have them jump around the field, battlesmithing your tanks.
So funny.
Forge Lords with jump packs. Although I will, you know what? A Forge Lord with the jet bike though sounds like a good modeling opportunity. Imagine modeling a jet bike to just have like a giant servo claw or something on it to be like the mobile repair man.
Yeah.
I had-
Something I want to mention. Oh, go ahead, Randy. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say. Speaking of the game I had with Reed, I had a Forge Lord sitting right next to my Titan when it was destroyed. And the way Titans die now is that they literally wound everything on the field. And the closer you are to the Titan, the stronger the explosion is. So my Forge Lord was like obviously within 6 inches. It was like what, strength 12, AP 2.
Like damage 6, like it blew up your Land Raider. No, it was way higher.
Yeah, no,
Like,
it
killed your
destroyed-
Land Raider in what? Like I didn't shoot your Land Raider, and it just blew up. the Land
Yeah,
Raider.
like my Land Raider was unscathed. But it was really close to the Warhound. So both my Land Raider and my Forge Lord were just vaporized when it exploded.
As they should.
Yeah, go ahead. What were you saying?
Something that's to keep in mind too with vehicles, which goes back to why I think we feel they're very balanced this edition, is that they don't hold objectives and they don't contest objectives. So if you have 2 Kratoses midfield or a Land Raider, like, I mean, if it's discouraged its squad or is providing fire support, great, but it's not going to prevent the enemy TAC Marines or whatever from scoring, right? Unless they're sadist or something. Like 1 TAC Marine and an objective will give them 3-4 points while your Land Raider is sitting on top of it. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
True.
And speaking of scoring, I mean, we have talked before about this, and I think a lot of people have talked about the disparity between Line and Vanguard. That being said, you should expect your opponent to have some Vanguard units. You probably will too, because like those are usually your fun close combat units, right? Are your Vanguard units. So it's something to be aware of. Just Darren or Vanguard 4. If your opponent has Custodes, they're Vanguard. Assault Marines are Vanguard. It's important to note which units are Vanguard, because you're going to want to position yourself in a way to react away from those units. Or if you are running those units, you have to be very strategic about how you move them, when you move them, try to get them in a position where your opponent can't react away from them.
Mm-hmm.
So that is going to be something I think that might morph the meta as we move further along into the edition. It's going to be interesting to see how Vanguard units are played, once we kind of figure out the balance between Vanguard and Line. But for all that we've spoken about how there is that disparity, you should still expect them to be a big presence in a lot of lists, because they are the fun close combat units in a lot of armies.
Something a combo I've really liked is Vanguard with Deep Strike, because let's take an objective, right? And let's say there's a TAC squad on our despoiler squad. You Deep Strike, a Warmonger, or Deep Strike like Justarin or some like Saturnine, right? Saturnine coming to the objective, and then that's not a move, so they can't react away, right?
Yeah.
So if you light up the squad, maybe you'll kill them, maybe you won't, right? If they run away, you get Vanguard points. If they die, you get Vanguard points.
They don't. So if you're shooting,
you're right.
Vanguard if you wipe out the unit.
You're right. So hopefully,
but that being said, Saturnine with those plasma, are pretty strong. You have a few Saturnine against a tactical squad.
Good.
Yeah, you have a good chance of wiping them out.
Yeah, if we don't wipe them out, they're going to survive. They're going to leave next turn. Great, you just have the objective, because hopefully your master signal gives them line next turn. So So I think Deep Strike Vanguard. Yeah, Vanguard, you just gotta be careful. Don't think that if you see a juicy unit that you can just take Vanguard, because they could run away with the movement reaction. But I think eventually, if you're smart with it, the game is going to go on a point where you have a giant Vanguard blob on an objective. Like, they have to dislodge you somehow, and if they get close, you could just hopefully kill them. But
True.
Another thing I think that is going to be in a lot of lists, and this kind of ties into Vanguard, it's because it's good close combat units, is the champion with Paragon of Battle. I think that is going to be in a lot of lists.
Oh yeah, weapon skill 7 unit is absolute murder. So if you have the opportunity, you might as well be prepared to get slapped by it.
I mean, I think almost every game I've played at this point, we both have champions with Paragon of Battle in our list.
Well, I gotta say, I think the problem with it is right now is that there is the Vanguard unit that is unlocked by the champion. I think if it wasn't unlocked by the champion, then I think there's a lot less reason to take the champion. I think the Apex detachment for the Vanguard is kind of that catch-22 right now. Like you either got to really invest in the whole hog, or like you can take your champion to kind of get that cheaper out for it. Plus the Paragon of Battle.
But it's the elite unit. It's the
Sorry, not Vanguard. I was saying I meant elite. Yes.
Yeah.
No, but it's the elite unit. It's the retinue unit, and it's a heavy transport. Like those are three things that like normally you have to devote like a separate slot to each of them, and you can bring all three with your champion, and he's a great unit in and of himself. So it's a very hard thing to ignore if you want to bring those units in a functional way without splurging on different command slots.
I will say though, having been on the receiving end of this, is Paragon of Battle champions are super good and they will murder stuff. But if you're fighting, if you see like a Cataphracti with Thunderhammer or Saturnine Praetor, it's even worse. Saturnine Praetor with like whatever the fuck he has. Don't think you're gonna slap him around because you have higher weapon skill, but homie rolls 2 5s. You only have a 5 up invul, dude. Like you could get. It's happened to me. I charged a Paragon of Battle guy to a Warsmith with a Graviton Hammer, and I dealt 1 wound went through, so he took 2 wounds, and he got lucky. He got 2 hits, and I failed both saves, and that's a dead chap. It could just happen, right? So just be careful with those matchups where someone is really has Cataphracti armor or Saturnine armor and a giant hammer or power fist, because you could just die.
This goes without saying, but like, yeah, that unit, like the best way to I think run the champion right now is just like to target like kind of lesser units, like really target people's tactical marines with them. That guy is going to go rampage through those kind of squads because most of the time you don't have enough things to take him out in that instance.
Yeah, or bullying like weaker Centurions.
Yeah,
most people are taking cheap Centurions that have a chainsword or whatever. Like they're great at bullying things that aren't super powerful. And wiping them out in the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely right. So I think that's kind of covered most of the things you want to bring in an army, right? Is there anything you guys can think of?
Yeah, just keep in mind those again. Like it's a very objective heavy game, so make sure you have ways to score objectives quickly and prevent your opponent from scoring. Vehicles are super tough, so have a plan for vehicles. Make sure you have some really good anti-tank to kind of deal with that, or just kind of if you don't have anti-tank, then find a way to if build your army with that in mind, because you're going to see Land Raiders, you're going to see Kratoses, you're going to see Sicarans and all that, especially with all these plastic vehicles people have now. Expect to see them and expect to have a plan for them. Yeah. I think Dreadnoughts, whatever kills tanks, also really kills Dreadnoughts. So as long as you're good on anti-tank, I think you'll have something to kind
and
of.
Also, to that point, when we say
aren't even in the game anymore,
we did talk about heavy support squad last cannon still being good, but make sure that you have mobile. If you're planning on being like I'm going to do like a very strong anti-tank army, make sure you have mobile firepower, because the way terrain works this edition, there's a lot of medium terrain, and if you're more than 3 inches away, you can't see through it. So if you have a heavy support squad, in your deployment zone, there's a good chance your opponent can effectively keep all of their units out of line of sight of that heavy support squad if they want to. With the way terrain is this edition, it's really prohibitive for those squads that want to just stand still and unload their firepower. So that's something to keep in mind if you're not a Death Guard player. Make sure that you have some mobile gun platforms. I think rapiers are really good this edition.
Yeah,
that's another thing that
having a good time with them.
We'll probably see a lot of. I mean, both the anti-infantry and the anti-tank ones are great. I honestly think the heavy bolter ones I think are amazing. 40 points.
Yeah.
For that thing, and it throws like what is it? It's like a pinning 3 or something.
2, I think, right? But I'm telling you, man, Spartan with Gravis Bolt responsons, they just free fire everywhere. Defensive weapons, they put suppresses everywhere.
You can get so many more rapiers for that amount of points, though.
How else am I going to transport my 20-man destroyer squad or my 10-man Terminator squad?
So actually, I have a little crazy, sneaky trader-only combo I've been using a lot recently, which is Malefic. So the Malefic Prime Advantage, if you guys don't know, probably don't know if you're loyalist, but if you're trader only upgrade where it's a prime advantage where the unit becomes malefic. And what that means is, so the fluff is it's like chaos worshipping, right? So it can't be joined by non-malefic units. So you got, if you want a squad to have an HQ attached, you need to make the HQ malefic as well. But a malefic unit does not take negative status effects. It just takes D3 wounds. Which if you have like a 20-man attack blob, I've been running on a 20-man assault squad blob and not taking no pinning, no stun, nothing. Yeah, you lose D3 guys, but that's honestly I'd take D3 guys over being pinned any day and not being able to hold objectives. So some legions like Sons of Horus and Word Bearers have ways to take multiple prime slots for troops. Think about that. If you play those armies, world leaders and all that, yeah, that it could be a really strong way to have a blob in an objective that won't be dislodged until it dies because it doesn't take statuses.
That actually brings me to one more thing I want to mention. This isn't necessarily about any specific unit, but this is just kind of to how you want to build your lists. The way this edition works, there's not really any all-around great things anymore, right? Most things are very good at one thing and not so good at anything else. So you really want to have a lot of different things in your army to be able to deal with different situations. Don't expect, if you're just going to be like, I'm just going to bring a bunch of status heavy weapons, usually status guns aren't as good at just wiping units out. So if you do run into a unit that has a lot of malefic, like you're going to really struggle because you're not going to do that much to them. Or vice versa. Like if you're bringing a lot of really strong guns, but not much pinning, you'll kill a couple tactical Marines, but whatever, they'll probably still be fine with their Nuncio Voxes, whatever. They can be there in the next turn. So you really want to plan for almost any eventuality with your list building. Like make sure you have a little bit of everything in there. Even if you're theming your list for like a specific type of thing, make sure you have other stuff in there as well. Otherwise, you're going to run into a list that you have a really bad game against because you just are not going to be able to counter anything that they have.
I think that's everything army-wise, but I think we need to cover a very important topic, which is what should everyone be bringing besides their armies to an event. And I want to mention two things. One is a very positive attitude. We got a brand new edition, guys, so making sure you are being a positive player and a very patient player, because unfortunately, this edition, despite I keep ranting about this GW lying to us about the edition change being small. This was a fairly big shakeup for the edition. A lot of things changed. So people are I'm still very confused, honestly, with list building. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. People are going to be making mistakes. They're going to be doing no-nos, or they're going to be thinking back to old second edition or even first edition rule ideas. So it's going to be a little while till our brains kind of juice into the third edition mode. So for at least in this immediate event, and really any event still, just be patient. And that's, again, why most events are two game a day events, is be patient, have fun. We're not the sweaty, try-hard players here. We're here to have fun. It's a narrative game. So make sure you bring a positive attitude. And so I know that can be hard, especially because I get burned out on hobby a lot. So sometimes I just do not want to play a game. And that's when I know, hey, I shouldn't go looking for a game because I'm not in the right mood set for it. If I'm not going to have fun, my opponent's not going to have fun. So I think that's something that you really remember to bring on, is a very positive and a very patient attitude when you come to these games now, especially for this edition and the opening year of playing it.
Yeah, and on that note, something having run events before, something I ask my players is like, know the rules, guys. And I don't mean like be an encyclopedia like some people think I am, but like don't come to a game and be like, what's ballistic skill? Or dumb come and be like, yeah, I never read the third edition rule book. I only played 2.0. Like, how does this, familiarize yourself at the very least. Like, again, you don't have to like read the rule book, memorize it. You don't have to tell, you don't have to tell us what medic does, because no one knows what medic does. But like at least familiarize yourself with the basics, so that way you're not like totally lost, and your opponent is not teaching you the game, right?
100%. I can't stress this enough. Please read the rule book. I can't count how many times I've seen online someone being like, I haven't read the rule book yet. What's this? And all I want to do is respond, well, you'll find out if you read the rule book.
It is a little frustrating.
Like, I mean, there's plenty of. I've read the rule book. There's plenty of stuff I still forget and whatever, and like that's fine. Like if I'm in the middle of a game and we have a question, like I mean, every game I've played at 3.0 so far, half the time has been me looking through rules, making sure I'm doing things right. Like that's how you learn the game, is just by like going through the rules over and over and over again, trying to make sure you're doing it right. Especially if you've got the 2.0 rule set burned in your mind. Like there's already been multiple times where like I just assumed something was the same as it was in 2.0, only to find out later I was like, oh wait, I've been doing this wrong. This is different now. We're all going to be making those kind of mistakes, and I think the go-to should be to double check and make sure you're doing it right and not assume that things are the same. And if you and your opponent have a question about something, like the first thing you should both do is just look at the rule book. You know, there's no point having an argument about it. You know, I'm sure there's going to be times when it's, you know, not necessarily clear. That some things are hard to find, but you know, those are the growing pains of a new edition.
Yeah, guys, like make sure you really, especially I think for Legion rules and stuff, make sure you really familiarize yourself with how it actually works. And because I see this is a very common thing when I play war games, is that people kind of forget the weakness of a rule or unit. Like for example, Sons of Horus, right? Their special gambit is your weapon gets fade, so it has a chance to reduce the toughness during the challenge. Well, you can only use that on the first swing, on the first what's it called, like a challenge step or whatever. But it's really easy to miss, right? Now, you know, it's not super strong, but there are some other rules like that where they're really strong, but they have a really big weakness or a balancing factor that you make sure you remember that, because it kind of feels bad when you do this cool thing and you're like, oh heck yeah, and you're like, oh, actually I forgot this part that says my guy dies after or whatever, right? Like Mechanicum is an example where if you buff a Mechanicum unit, the next turn they take D3 damage. That's huge, right? So make sure stuff like that, you know, try to find weaknesses if you see something really cool, because you want you and your opponent to both have fun. So, and another thing I've noticed playing a lot is just because something has Terminator armor doesn't make a deep strike. I've played so many games, and I don't mind this because we're learning light, but they'll attach like a Praetor to their, like, I don't know, like just Aaron squad. It's like the Praetor doesn't have deep strike. Like only.
I mean, that was the same as last edition.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Like that's something that's just stayed the same.
Yeah. So just because it has Terminator armor, guys, doesn't mean it deep strikes.
Double check your keywords, people.
Yes.
All right. I feel like that's a pretty good place to leave it off. Anyone have any last thoughts?
Don't forget your dice and your measuring tapes. I know that's almost like a given, but I found myself very often like opening my bag and I'm like, where'd my dice go? Where's my measuring tape? What happened to all my templates?
Where's
And
the
I'm just
like as well, like make sure
where's
you-
my army? I thought I put it in the truck. Why isn't it in my back seat? Did I leave it on the porch? Oh God, let me turn around and go get it before the porch pirates get it. Stuff like that. I mean, it's again just the normal stuff. Bring your rules, bring your measuring tape.
If you're going to
bring
an
your-
event, generally bring your list as well.
Oh yeah,
It's always
bring a
good
list.
one to bring. Well, I mean, it's like nice to be able to hand that off to your opponent at the beginning of the game and be like, "Here, take a look. Let me know if you have any questions."
Yep.
So do bring a list. Don't bring a 20-page novel on
Yes,
Predator.
condense.
And it's
I
also
feel
good
like-
for yourself too, because there sometimes maybe you'll figure out an upgrade. You know, you paid 10 points for a Vox or a Vexilla, and then crucial time you forget it. That's something, you know, having a list will help you remember that you do have that upgrade or whatever.
Especially for the prime slots. I keep
Oh
forgetting
yeah.
that, like when I give a unit combat veterans, like I never think about that. I'm like, oh yeah, they should have like an extra, you know, leadership. Like I never like I think still to this day I have not remembered that I have combat veterans on certain units. I keep forgetting that I do that. So yeah, having that written down and in front of you can only help when you're playing a game.
It's true.
All right, but then I think that's a good place to leave off. Let us know how your guys' games are going, what kind of meta you guys have seen in your local play groups. I'm sure some things, you know, certain play groups are more or less aggressive than others. I'm sure people are seeing certain combinations in some places and not others. So we're curious to see kind of how things are going in your communities. Yeah, as usual, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you guys are thinking, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you,
Thank
everyone.
you all.
Bye.
Adios.
Bye.